Welcome back to the Broto Fantasy Football Podcast presented by BrotoFantasy.com. I'm your host, Tim PETROP, with my brothers, the only two twins that give you double that fantasy goodness, Michael and Jason PETROP.
That was the ugliest face you've ever made.
Yeah, that was bad. Watch the video.
No, if you're watching the video and you just saw that face, just go to Spotify.
It's the Seahawks today.
Yes, you do.
Man, I got to stop doing that because I'm coughing OD.
Yeah, you're a stranger.
Today we got the Seahawks on the summer heat wave. This is when we look at every single team and give you their fantasy outlook for the month of August.
3 teams left.
Yes, 3 teams left. We're going to the Seattle Seahawks now. One team that completely changed their identity last season. Let's look at the offensive outlook where we look at the coaches. The coaches are the same this year, but last year was new. Completely different offensive philosophy with Brian Schottenheimer at the helm of the Pete Carroll team. He's a run-first guy. They're the only team in the league that ran more than they passed last season in the entire league. So that's probably going to happen again. Let's start with the quarterback. Russell Wilson is one of those guys that you'd probably want as your top 3 players to start a franchise with, but you definitely don't want as your top 3 players to drop in fantasy football. He was wildly efficient last year, and usually I would say you can't expect that again, but Russell Wilson has been wildly efficient his entire career. Michael, where are you looking at Russell Wilson?
Russell Wilson is one of those guys that I'm likely not going to own anywhere. Based off ADP, he's going as the 8th quarterback according to Fantasy Pros. I have him like 13th quarterback, and I think that's being kind, honestly. Last season, we were talking about the efficiency in the Brian Schottenheimer offense, right? He was the QB 10 last season, so people are expecting him to improve, despite the fact that he threw a ridiculous 35 touchdowns on under 30 pass attempts per game. 3,448 yards, 18th in the league. He threw 427 times last season, 35 touchdowns. The year prior, 553 attempts, 120 more, 34 touchdowns. In 2014, his closest year with attempts, 453 pass attempts, 20 touchdowns. So 35 touchdowns with 427 attempts is not something that happens every day. It's not something that's super sustainable. If someone can sustain it, it's Russell Wilson because he's awesome. He's a top-notch QB. Anyone who leaves him outside the top 5 actual NFL QBs blow my mind. They obviously don't know what they're talking about. He also only ran for 376 yards and no touchdowns.
That's my argument.
That's the year prior he ran for 586 yards and 3 touchdowns. If the rushing yards go up, yes, he's much more valuable. But if he is the same quarterback as he was last year, rushing-wise, where he mainly passes and does not use his legs, like there were no drawn-up runs really for Russell Wilson last season in the Schottenheimer offense. If that remains the same, I do not see him coming close to the output. Not coming close, not approaching the 35 touchdowns. The yards, sure. I don't see him reaching 35 touchdowns on only 430 attempts.
Jason?
Something to note, he had 0 rushing touchdowns last year.
He was not rushing last year
in his
at all.
career, he averages at least 2 a year. So 12 right there, that's 3 passing touchdowns, if we're talking fantasy points. I see your argument. His touchdown percentage was a career high last year, 8.2%. Duh. But if he rushes in a few touchdowns, his efficiency is going to stay up. He was 2nd in true throw value last year. He's one of the best passers in the league. I'm cool with him as a back-end QB1.
Let's go over to running backs now. 2 guys that are definitely going to get work. Chris Carson, Rashaad Penny. I think that both of these guys separately both hold fantasy value. I think they will split the carries pretty evenly, but Chris Carson probably getting a little more work. Michael disagrees. Michael, what do you see for this backfield?
I'm not a Rashaad Penny guy. All Chris Carson did last year in 14 games was rush for over 1,150 yards. Second most run-heavy team in the league. Also added in 163 reception yards, 9 total touchdowns. There's room for that to improve even if they're going to continue to rush and if Russ Wilson's passing touchdowns are going to go down. 3rd in the league in evaded tackles. 5th in goal line carries, so he was getting the carries on the goal line. He had 3 games last season where he scored single digits. All 3 of those games, less than double-digit carries. Every single time he got at least 10 carries, he scored double-digit half PPR fantasy points. He was a very effective runner. And Rashaad Penny, I get it. He was a first-round pick. He only had 500 total yards, 3 games over 50 yards, 2 total touchdowns, 2 dropped passes on only 9 receptions. Chris Carson was clearly better than Rashaad Penny last season.
I mean,
clearly.
you say only for
The yardage.
you say only 419 yards, but that's an average of 5 yards a carry.
Listen,
That's an efficient runner.
here's the deal, though.
And
The
he's
Seahawks
came
wanna
in,
win.
And he's slimmer. He's faster this year. I think they give it to him both. I think there's room for both.
Weight loss garbage is the stupidest thing anyone buys into.
Not when you're a fat running back.
I just don't care about the draft pick stuff
Eddie Lacy.
in this situation.
Yeah, Eddie Lacy was
Because-
good the 1 year he was skinny.
I don't know about that.
Not skinny, but in the most in shape.
Kirby.
Look, Carson was way better than Penny was last year. Despite the fact that Penny was a first-round pick and Carson was undrafted, they gave the ball to Carson because they needed to win. If the Seahawks want to continue winning, they're going to keep giving the ball to Chris Carson.
How about this? Chris Carson only saw 55% of the team's running back.
That's what I'm
carries last
saying.
year.
There's room for
If
both.
you include Russell Wilson's carries, he saw 45% of them. But he was still 6th in the league in rush attempts.
There's room for both,
Crazy.
dog. There's room for both,
7th,
man.
sorry. But if you look at the people ahead of him, Zeke, Barkley,
Gurley probably.
DJ, those 3 probably going to stay the same. Unless the Kingsbury offense changes it up a bit. Gurley, iffy this year. AP,
Definitely no.
No.
and Jordan Howard.
Probably not.
Definitely not.
So, and that was on 55% of the carries. Penny and Davis saw 19 and 26% respectively. And now Davis is out, and people are just assuming Penny is going to take all of Davis's work. Not sure why that's the assumption. But even if it's just a little bit of a split, if Carson gets 60 to 65% of the work, that's going to be top 4 in the league in carries. Penny can still see 40% of the work. He'll be, 20th in the league in carries.
That's what I'm saying.
But
There's-
my point is,
there's
there's
room
no
for
reason
both
to
these
think
guys.
Penny's going to take Carson's job.
No,
Yeah.
there's no reason to think that.
And there's also, I'm not sure there's reason to think Penny's going to get 40% of the work.
I do.
30 maybe.
Nah,
40's high.
I
Yeah,
can see him taking
yes.
over some carries. The dude was good last year, and he's better this year, just as an overall player. Here's a question I got. Any chance J.D. McKissick comes back and becomes the pass catching back, and he has any fantasy value?
Stop trying to make J.D. McKissick happen.
He's like
Fetch is not going to happen.
I mean, they still got C.J. Procise too, right?
Michael Mean Girls?
Yeah, they
Come
still
on,
got
man.
C.J. Procise, but I think McKinnick breaks. He's over Procise.
They got Bo Scarborough.
All right, so let's go to the wide receiver weapons since
He was-
Michael
he
just
was
mentioned
drafted by the Cowboys.
Bo Scarborough.
The son of Nate
Um,
Scarborough from...
DK
Longest
Metcalf.
Longest yard, yeah.
Are you waiting for me to talk before you talk?
Longest yard?
DK Metcalf, David Moore, Jerron Brown. That's the 3 names that stand out with you. Obviously,
I have nicknames for all 3 of them.
obviously, I'm not saying the big guy, Tyler Lockett. So let's talk about Tyler Lockett first. Tyler Lockett,
You didn't let me say my nicknames.
new extension, right? His new extension last year, not this year, excuse me. Last year, perfect passer rating when Russell Wilson was throwing to him.
Yep.
Usually it's hard to say that you're going to repeat that. But if anyone could do it, it's the most efficient receiver with the most efficient quarterback.
Yeah. Before I start, what's your stupid-ass nicknames? Because I kind of want to hear this.
Nay, nay, and nay. I'm not drafting any of them.
Okay.
Oh, man, that was dumb.
Stupid.
All right. So, why is true throw value a great stat?
Because it's glorious.
Not because I made it and I'm calling it great, but because it tells you the quality of targets that people see. Russell Wilson had the second highest true throw value last year.
And it'll probably still be up there this year, without a doubt.
It was double what Josh Allen's was worth. 2 targets from Josh Allen was worth 1 from Russell Wilson. Do you understand how huge that is? You hear 5 targets, you don't think it's that much. You hear 10, you think it's a lot. But Russ and Josh Allen's the same exact thing. So, I forgot his name.
So you're
right here.
taking
Tyler
5.
Lockett?
You're taking 5 Tyler Lockett targets over 10 Zay Jones targets.
Not even. I'll get to Tyler Lockett next. David Moore is going to outscore every Bills receiver this season.
Wow, David Moore.
No.
There's no reason why Bills receivers should be drafted, and David Moore is going to outscore all of them.
David Moore is a hot
You
take.
think a Brian Schottenheimer offense is going to create 2 fantasy viable receivers?
Yeah, we saw it with Baldwin and Lockett.
We
What are you
didn't. Baldwin
talking
was
about?
trash last season.
Nah, Baldwin was good when he played.
Baldwin was not good last
Yes, he
season.
was.
And
He
Baldwin
was a wide
is
receiver
an
3.
Baldwin was an established receiver. Like
So?
Doug Baldwin.
David Moore
Moore's-
had like 7 touchdowns last year on the outside.
5.
Tyler Lockett on the outside last year was killing it with Russell Wilson. Someone has to take that job because Tyler Lockett's probably going to go into the
No,
slot.
you guys are not convincing me.
Tyler
about
Lockett
this.
only had 90 targets last year. Less than Calvin Ridley. 965 yards and 10 touchdowns. He had an 89.7% catch rate in the slot. He played there over 60% of the time when Doug Baldwin's out. We saw what Doug Baldwin did with Russell Wilson in the slot. So give me Tyler Lockett in the 5th round.
So it's probably going to be Tyler Lockett in the slot and then DK and David Moore
Yes.
when it comes down to it. Or if DK can't get right, Jerron Brown and David Moore.
Yeah, Lockett was one of the best receivers in the slot last season. He's going to play there even more now that Doug Baldwin's gone. And David Moore's going to be the guy on the outside.
Doug Baldwin had 618 yards in 13 games last season.
Yo, you gotta.
That's not stupendous.
All right,
Tyler
but
Lockett
the-
had 900.
games.
you
They
know,
didn't-
you're twisting those.
They did
you
not.
know you're twisting that up.
You know how many yards Tyler Lockett had? 965. They did not have a 1,000-yard receiver. If you think they're making 2 fantasy viable wide receivers, you're nuts.
Tyler Lockett had 965 yards on 90 targets. Doug Baldwin's gone.
Yes, Tyler Lockett's a good pick. I didn't like Tyler Lockett in the beginning of the offseason when Doug Baldwin wasn't retired. Now he's retired. I like
I
Tyler
really
Lockett
like Lockett.
because he's the only weapon really on that
Look,
offense.
I'm not
as
saying
of
David
now.
Moore's wide receiver 2, not 3. But David Moore is not being drafted.
Okay. Well,
And people are wasting picks on
If you
Zay
want to take him as a
Jones
wide
and
receiver
John
5, sure.
Brown.
I like Zay Jones.
this is the longest conversation you're ever
I'll
gonna
bet you
hear.
Zay Jones, David Moore. There you go.
Oh,
Oh, David
so
Moore.
easy.
Oh
Yo,
my
you want to do
goodness.
another one? John Brown, Cole Beasley,
No, I don't like John Brown.
Robert Foster. Name your
I
Bills
don't like
receiver.
those guys. I like Zay Jones.
Josh Allen's trash.
So look, you guys are arguing now over whether they can sustain 2 pass catchers. Anything for Big Will Disley?
We
Any
saw it
love?
happen last
He had a
year.
nice
He played well when he
opening
played.
game.
He
The
played
Rook
well.
Will Disley.
Yeah, he
Look,
played
you want to
well,
take
man.
a flyer at the end of your draft. There's worse flyers to take.
Yeah.
But-
Don't draft Will Disley or Nick Vanette thinking you have a tight end 1.
Yeah,
is what
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
obviously.
But draft him
Seahawks
in the draft Disley in the last round, and if it works out, it works out.
Seahawks said they want to ramp up his workload.
I
Who's your
draft him in Scott Fishbolt's tight end premium.
Who's your one injury away, Michael?
You want to hear something? My one injury away is Russell Wilson. One of the running backs go down. They need to pass more. Russell Wilson will be Russell Wilson again.
Interesting. Jason?
Real quick, we didn't really talk about DK Metcalf. You guys
He's-
expect anything from the Rook?
He's
No.
operating with the 2s.
I don't.
David
either.
Moore has been starting. DK Metcalf.
We talk.
You
about
know how I
everyone.
feel about the receivers.
Rookie receivers, I don't take them.
My injury away, Carson Penny, not for Michael's reason, but for the fact that, dude, if Penny were to get injured, Chris Carson would zoom up draft boards.
Probably be like a 2nd-round pick. No joke.
He'd be a better pick than Derrick Henry.
I like Jerron Brown. Jerron Brown, he has history in the league. He's a long play threat, and that's where Russell Wilson likes to throw the ball down the field. So I think Jerron Brown, if David Moore gets hurt or if DK Metcalf doesn't follow through, and right now, again, this is previously recorded, so keep up with the preseason. But as of right now, Jerron Brown is playing over DK Metcalf.
I already have Carson rated over Henry.
Not Jerron Brown. David Moore.
No, he's playing over Metcalf.
Brown too, yeah. Metcalf?
Brown and
Hold
Moore
up.
are the
Well,
starters
I'm just
as
saying-
of this moment
Okay,
when
yeah.
we're recording.
There was a rumor that Metcalf is like getting people to line up and take pictures and shit during
Yeah.
practice.
No.
And, like, talking about
That
how
was
to go in size order.
This
Was
is
that a
funny.
joke?
This is funny. Someone created a fake Roto World account
Oh.
with the same setup and tweets ridiculous things, and it's like
Uh-huh.
tricking people. Like someone said that DK Metcalf was like, "Let's all line up a height order with the with the wide receivers to show how much bigger he is than the
That's
rest
funny.
of them."
If you want some non-ridiculous tweets and some ridiculous tweets,
We
Michael,
tweet
where can they
ridiculous
find you?
things sometimes. Mike_Petrop.
Jason?
Jason Petrop.
You can find me, at Tim Petrop on all social media outlets, but only if you're feeling real frisky. If you want some extras, like an extra episode during the season and much, much more, check out patreon.com/BrotoFantasy. Also, BrotoFantasy.com for all of what we offer: rankings, waivers, videos, podcasts, articles,
True value.
true values, true throw value, true target value. There's really an unlimited amount of stuff you could do on that website if you're scrolling around and you really want to get with it. And that's it for now. YouTube.com/BrotoFantasy if you're not already looking at
Reminder
our
for the
lovely
folks
faces.
out there. We're getting very close to football time. If you don't follow us on Twitter, or if you're not on Twitter much, we tweet every touchdown.
Every single touchdown.
Right away.
We've been told that we get the touchdowns faster than red zone.
There's a couple guys told us that they work on Sundays and they have our notifications turned on. So whenever they get a chance, they look and see if their fantasy guy scored any touchdowns from our tweets.
It's a beautiful thing.
Turn on those
Follow us.
notifications.
Turn on those notifications. We'll see you tomorrow.
Later.
Later.